Hello React Native developers, William here for a new installment of Can It Be Done in React Native? And this week we are looking at the Soundcloud audio player. Hello guys, I hope you are well. Thank you so much for the great feedback on the last video. And this week I really wanted to look at the Soundcloud app. I was lately using it, and especially I was using this feature to move back and forth into the song. And I was wondering, how would we implement this in React Native? And so I find this example particularly interesting because 2 weeks ago, if I go back to my snacks here, we implemented this effect, which is using a mask. So we have two tab bars on top of each other, and we are moving the mask around to get this nice little effect. And so obviously, if I go back to the SoundCloud app, it seems to be actually exactly the same technique. We have two waveforms on top of each other, one which is orange, one which is white, and we just slide around the mask to get this nice little effect. So if we've actually implemented this technique already, why am I excited? Why is this interesting? I think it's pretty interesting because 2 weeks ago we used masked iOS view, or iOS masked view, so which was only working for iOS, and I didn't really investigate how we could do this for Android. And I thought this would be a chance for redemption, and we could actually really try to do this for both iOS and Android. And the way we're gonna do this, I was able to download the waveform from SoundCloud. So if you use just the simple web client for SoundCloud and you listen to the API calls, you will actually get the data for building the histogram. The histogram we're gonna build manually. We're not gonna use D3 or anything like that, because here it's really simple. There is nothing fancy to be done. So we can easily draw it ourselves in SVG. And then we're gonna use a clip path to clip. So we're gonna put two histograms on top of each other, and we're gonna clip one of them. So the orange one. And so we will put the waveform into a scroll view, use the driver of the scroll view to set the position of the clipping path. And so we're going to simply translate it from one hand to the other. And this should work for both iOS and Android. So let's have a look. Guys, before we get started, I want to let you know about React Native Elements, which is a premium starter kit for React Native. You can use it for a new React Native project on both iOS and Android. We implement tons of components, of UI components, and they are organized into different themes. And we basically try to provide you with the best boilerplate you can have for new React Native projects. State-of-the-art ESLint rules, flow types, React navigation, having like all the de facto standard libraries set up, like the latest version of Expo and so on. This is what I use for any of my new React Native projects. I always try to keep it up to date with the state of the art. If you have a new cool React Native projects to do, you might get some value out of it. You can try it on iPhone through TestFlight, or on Android through the Expo client. I'm gonna also add a link to the APK, and also here also a public TestFlight link. So if you have a new React Native project coming up, I strongly recommend you check it out. Alright guys, let's get started. Here I created a project using Create React Native App, and I downloaded some data that I just sniffed from the SoundCloud web client, and I'm particularly interested into this file, which contains the waveform. So that's given basically by the SoundCloud API. And I have like a cover picture I can use. So before we build the histogram, we're going to do some basic layout. So I'm going to create a container that will take up all the screen. And we can use the image as a background. So it's in data/cover.jpg. I'll set up some style as well. So it needs to take up all the screen, absolute fill object, and we need to set with null and height null for the scaling of the image. My cover, sorry. All right. And now maybe just to fit the layout of Soundcloud, we're gonna put one sub-container. Let's call it progress, which will take up half of the screen and will be at the bottom, so I can do justify content flex end. So we have half here of the screen at the bottom. In fact, I can even check by putting background color red, just to check quickly. Looks good. And then we're gonna put a view which will be centered in this bottom half, and this will contain the scroll view, and the scroll view will contain two histograms on top of each other. So we have a scroll view, and then inside we have two histograms. We're going to create a component that we will call waveform, and we have two, and they're on top of each other, so I'm going to wrap one into a view, which I will put into an absolute fill. So I need to import the scroll view component. We need to create a waveform component. So far, maybe we just return an empty view. Okay, we need to import this guy. All right. So now we have. So this is the data we need. Actually, we're going to pass as parameter of the component. So maybe I just remove the background color. Maybe I close this one here. So let's import the data waveform from data slash waveform.json. And we can pass it as parameter. All right. So if we go back here, one property is the waveform, and it has three properties: width, height, and the samples. So width is the number of samples, height is the maximum height of one sample, and then we have actually a sequence of samples. So width, height, samples. And maybe another parameter. So we know, and I think I should have a screenshot here. So here we have a screenshot of the Soundcloud player. So two waveforms on top of each other, and one is white, one is orange, right? And yeah, so let's add a color parameter. So this one, the one in the background will be white, and this one will be, I'm not sure which color. Let's have a look. Okay. So we also have a color parameter. Okay, so now let's try to build the actual waveform, so the histogram. I think it seems to be pretty simple. I think we don't need like D3 or anything like that. I think we can build it manually quite easily. Let's try. Hopefully I won't fail. So we're gonna import SVG from Expo, and from the SVG, so we're gonna use the rectangle component. And we need to set up some constants maybe. So the width of each bar, maybe we can try 3-4 pixels, I'm not sure. So let's create bar width 4 pixels, and then we also need a margin in between. We can try 1 pixel, bar margin 1 pixel. And then you see between the two histograms there's also a margin here that seems to be 1 pixel as well. Yeah, okay. So we can compute the width and the height of our SVG. So the width is, okay, so first I need to extract the properties, so the waveform and color from the properties. And the width is the waveform width times the actual width of to display one bar. So it's going to be bar width plus margin. And the height is the height of the waveform plus this pixel in between, and plus this the bottom bar. The bottom bar, which is like the golden ratio of the one at the top. So we have plus bar margin 1 pixel plus the waveform height times 0.61. Okay. And now we can map over the samples. So waveform samples map. So we have the sample and index, which we are going to use as key actually. And we're going to draw a rectangle for each sample. So the height is the height of the sample, is the sample. We need to use key, of course. Then we need to set the X and Y, and I think, so here we're gonna use, so for the X position, so X position, so the Y position maybe first. So the Y position is the maximum height minus the actual height. So waveform height minus sample, because we want them to be aligned with the bottom at the same position. So we need to subtract the difference. And X, it's just going to be key times the width of one bar, which is bar width plus margin, I think. And then we can add color as a fill, see if we get something. Fill equals nothing is shown. Height, width, maybe I need to set some width as well, which is bar width. Maybe it's better if I do it like this. So we see here we have the histogram. So you see we don't need D3, it's pretty straightforward. Now we need to do the bottom one. So it's very similar. We're gonna go over each. Oh, actually I should, instead of doing this twice, I could use React Fragment to do this only once. So I'm gonna do React Fragment. Let me try. I think this should work. Up. I can set up a key, and I need to return, so seems to work. And I need to return two rectangles, so I have the top one already, and now I'm gonna do the bottom one. And the bottom one starts at waveform height plus bar margin. The height, no, it's not correct, but so the width is the same, color is the same, but I need to add some opacity. Maybe let's say 0. Let's just try some random value. So X is the same and Y is this one plus, so actually this one times 2 plus bar margin, I think. Let's see. Did I just crash everything? Bundle doesn't load. Ah, it does. Okay. True encounter. So I seem to misuse. Oh, it's this one. I need to remove maybe the keys. Okay, so I'm doing something wrong here. So oh, sorry, because if I go back to the screenshot here, the bottom bar is reversed. So actually the starting position is always the same, which is the 8 of the waveform plus plus the 1 pixel, the bar margin. So that's our Y. X should be the same. Yes, perfect. And opacity, we can make maybe 0.5. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And I think we need to remove the bounce effect here on. So there's a scroll view. We're gonna make it horizontal and no bouncing for iOS. You see, we can scroll nicely over the whole song. Now we need to add some offset, so it only starts at the middle of the screen. So let's use the dimensions from React Native. We use already width, so I'm gonna call it window width. And then we're gonna create an offset variable, which is half the size. So here's the total width. We add the offset to the total width. And we add it here as well. And here as well. Let's have a look. All right, pretty good. Okay, so now we actually need to. So we're gonna need to use the driver from the scroll view to clip the top histogram and then animate it. So I always forget the params I need to use in the scroll view for on-scroll property, so I'm just gonna look it up and copy and paste. But first of all, maybe I import the animated module. And so here it's animated.scrollView. And then actually I have my snack here where I can use so I'm gonna need to create an animation value in the state for X. So that's all good. Couple of parameters here. We don't want to show the and I think this is all good. So now what we can do is add an extra property called progress where we pass the X value. So for the waveform at the bottom, we don't pass this property because it will never move. And for the one at the top, we use this property to clip accordingly to the position of the scroll view. So we have a new property here called progress, which is optional, which is actually so animate. Up. So now we need to create a clip path. So there's two ways to do clipping, masking, and there's two mechanisms which are actually different in SVG, clipping and masking. Here we can use clipping, and we are pretty lucky because masking is not supported yet in React Native SVG. But for this case, clipping is good enough. And so this is what we're going to use. So I need to import def component. I think it's called clip path. Yes. And so I'm going to create here some definitions. I'm going to call it progress. And it's going to be a rectangle. With the width, so the whole width. So width, height, sorry. And so we're gonna move this one so we're gonna use to clip I think the parameter is clip path, and we can give it the URL progress. And so for every rectangle, so this one covers the whole histogram by default, but then we're going to move it. We're going to move it along according to the scroll value. So this one is going to become an animated rect, which I can create here using the animated. Create animated component, I think that's the name. It seems to be correct. And now we're gonna need a special value for x, which we're going to create using interpolate. I can just actually call it x maybe. So if the progress variable is not set, x is at 0, which is the default, so we don't touch anything. And if not, if there is some progress set, we're going to use interpolate to guess the values. So input range, output range. So at 0, we translate the mask completely to the left. So basically, we don't see anything from the top. We only see basically the background tab bar. But we need to add the offset. So this is why we started, right at the middle of the screen, the progress bar. So when we scroll, instead of translating always right at the left of the screen, we add the offset so you can actually see the progress. So we're gonna add the offset. And then once we scroll to the width, then the whole background histogram should be covered, so x should be 0. So let's have a look. And I think, so this doesn't work, and I think I know why, because for rectangle, for some reasons here we need to put a string value for this to work. I think with string values it should work for some strange reason. No, it doesn't work. Is it because I think because we animate this X property, we cannot use a native driver. That's not something that is supported, so that might be why it doesn't work. Yeah, so you see it works nicely. And so you see the progress actually here is very strange. So our interpolation is not very good, I think, here, because the progress doesn't seem to end at the middle of the screen. And then you see here, like the more I go in the song, and at the end, so it looks a bit screwed up. And actually, I think I know why. It's because here we don't scroll until the width. We scroll when we are at this position at the end. We are not at the scrolling value is not the width of the waveform. It's the width of the waveform minus the width of the screen. So we can remove this guy. So yeah, this variable. But then when we are at this position, we don't want to be at 0. We want to be at 0 plus offset. So we want to be at offset. No, actually, we want to be at okay, got it. So we want to be at 0 at the end, but then we will need to, okay, let's have a look first. So now we should be able to scroll till the end. But so you see now it's also like, it's a bit weird. And then, but we can scroll till the end, but you see, it's very strange. So what I want to do here is I'm going to keep it linear a bit before the end, and then at the end, once like, so this is the end, I'm going to create an intermediate value, which is going to be so width minus width of the screen, and I'm going to, for instance, remove the offset. I guess here it's a bit random value. And so it's going to be a step, so we keep it linear as long as possible, basically. So at this position, what should be the translation? Minus, so it should be the width of the screen, actually. So here it's a bit random, but we actually do know which position we have at this point. So which is good, I think, because until this point, so from 0 to this point, it should be completely linear. And now I need to use a string value. Oh, sorry about that. All right. So now it should be linear till almost the end. Yeah, you see. And then we can scroll till the end nicely and go back as well. All right, so I think that's it. Obviously, if we look at the SoundCloud audio player, there is much more going on. But I really wanted us to look at this recipe, especially since we used something similar 2 weeks ago, but it would only work on iOS. This should work on both iOS and Android. And you see, it was really fast to build the histogram, like manually, basically. And we use clip path from SVG, and also some animation capabilities from React Native SVG, even though we couldn't choose, unfortunately, the native driver. But I think it's still pretty good. Let me know what you think. Also, if you have examples you would like to see implemented in the channel, like from real world apps, and you are wondering, can it be done in React Native? Please reach out to me and I'll make sure to have a look and see how it can be done in React Native. And thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.